Welcome to the Social Changemakers Podcast. I'm your host, Khalilah Denney, and my guest today is Dr. Ron Garrett. Hello, Doc.
Hello, how's everyone? Glad to be with you today.
Yes, I'm glad to have you. You know, we're good friends. We've known each other for so long. I feel like it's been forever, but it's really only been, about 4 or 5 years?
About 4 or 5 years, that's correct.
Yeah. So I'm just excited to have you on the podcast today. You know what we all about here is about people who are making change, who are making positive impact in our community.
Okay.
Here in Prince George's County, we have a lot of nonprofits who are doing great work, and I just want to showcase those nonprofits.
Outstanding.
And the people who, are behind them, right? Tell us a little bit about the work that you do and where you are today in your career.
Okay. So currently I serve as the Director of Reentry Health Services and Supports for Metalworks Behavioral Health, which is that's my day job, if you want to call it that. I really look at it as a ministry because I get to engage with people, connect folks with services, and give them the help that they need. So for me, it's ministry. I just get the extra added benefit of every 2 weeks I get a blessing. And then, of course, serve as director of Reentry United, which is a national coalition of individuals, returning citizens, agencies, for-profits, non-profits, basically whosoever will, that has a passion about reducing mass incarceration by reducing recidivism.
Awesome. So we're going to touch on the Metalworks first.
Okay.
We are definitely partners.
Absolutely.
Partners in the charge, right, for serving returning citizens. The clients that I serve at the Denney House benefit from the services of Metalworks. You guys are one of our best partners. It is important that we highlight the effectiveness of strategic partnerships in nonprofits. That is exactly how we grow our impact, how we grow our resources, how we grow our bottom line, the dollars, right? Tell me a little bit more about what Metalworks does.
So Metalworks is a full-service core CARF accredited behavioral healthcare agency here in Prince George's County, Maryland. So therefore, we have the full slate of services: a clinical director, psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, PRP or psychiatric rehabilitation program, staff, and I'll talk about we kind of adjusted some of those things since I've been on board, especially as we're working with the reentry community. We provide case management, supportive transitional housing. We have a supportive employment program, the Life Success Academy, which is a day reentry program that takes place at our location 9:30 to 3 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. We provide lunch for our clients, those who are housed in one of the transitional houses, whether it's one of our own or one of our partners. We also provide transportation to and from for the program. It has been extremely impactful so far, to the extent that we have now had to make the program available virtually, so that we can serve other counties other than Prince George's County. So we have about 30 different opportunities that are for virtual programming around the Life Success Academy.
Oh, that's amazing. So I just want to highlight the fact that Metalworks is one of the only, if not the only, behavioral health service provider that I have, heard of making a significant effort to serve returning citizens, to the fact where they actually have their own department that you're heading up to ensure those individuals are being serviced appropriately.
Right.
That's phenomenal. They're also the leader in another thing that I think we talked about once before, something with the brain where they're trying to,
neurofeedback therapy.
Neurofeedback therapy. I don't want to get you in trouble, but if you can speak just a little bit on that, let's hear about it.
So the neurofeedback therapy, that's one of the co-founders, Clay Gregory. Co-founders Clay and Christine Gregory, super wonderful people. But Clay has a very, very great desire to look at innovative 21st century technology to see how it can impact our service delivery model so that we can be even more impactful, more efficient in what we do. So the neurofeedback therapy, one of the things that it does is it helps individuals who have had an issue with, I'm going to use the term, I'm not a clinician, I'm learning along with, say, maybe many of you, but I've been introduced to the term that is called affect regulation. That's what it is. What it means is when children are born, through the parenting, nurturing process, the human body learns how to regulate our emotions. For instance, when a child is crying, say at a level 10, we'll call it, and the parent picks up the child, begins to nurture the child, and the child calms down from a 10 to an 8 to a 5 to a 3 to back to their normal quiet state, right? Yeah. Children who grew up in a household where they did not receive the proper nurturing and they were neglected and just allowed to cry profusely, they did not learn how to regulate their emotions. I think all of us have been around a person that we would have them referred to as being, if this person gets mad, they go from 0 to 100. There's no turning back. And that is because that person has a very difficult, they have difficulty with being able to regulate their own emotions. So what neurofeedback therapy does, it allows for the client to be able to get a better understanding of why that is. There are some exercises that you're able to engage in through some virtual technology, the VR goggles for one, that allows a client to fully understand when they need to practice regulating their emotions, and practice makes perfect. We've all heard that. Yeah. And so it has really been an impactful science. Many of the professional athletes even use it to hone in their skills with what they're doing, to stay focused on what they're doing. Like Steph Curry is kind of how Clay got introduced to the technology because he's a great fan of it.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to bring it up because I know the clients of the Denney House, our transitional housing program, have been serviced by you all. They have experienced this neural
feedback therapy.
And, everybody comes back with positive reviews, as well as the services that are being provided, outside of that, specifically for returning citizens, the job training, the, workforce readiness, the anger management, the whole lineup of training that you guys have, that you offer to the returning citizens, seems to be very impactful, in my opinion. So I'm just grateful that we all have this partnership and that you guys are serving returning citizens so well. If anybody wanted to learn more about Metalworks, how would they go about it?
Actually, you could go online to metal-works.com. Of course, we have a website there, or you could give us a call at 602-451-1098. We're more than help. Our address is 9701 Apollo Drive, Suite 330 in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. We would love to have you to come by and experience our services.
Yes, awesome. Now, I'm a fan for returning citizens, transitional age youth, and veterans, but I just want to make sure it's clear that anybody who has a behavioral health diagnosis can be served at Metalworks, correct?
Correct. The full scope, from children to clients who are in their 70s and 80s, are patients for Metalworks Behavioral Health. We just so happen to be one of the few behavioral healthcare agencies in the country. I mean, one of the few that has a division specifically devoted to tailoring services that are uniquely designed to meet the needs of returning citizens and our families. And that's one of the main reasons why I made the transition from the Prince George's County Health Department over to Metalworks, because a lot of agencies and organizations will tell you that they meet clients where they are, but a lot of times that's not true, because when you have to, before you can receive services, when it's the responsibility is placed on the client. When you get your ID, you get a Social Security card, you get your birth certificate, then you can come back and be enrolled in our program. that doesn't make sense to me when we're dealing with somebody who has just been released from 10, 12 years of incarceration. They need a helping hand through that process.
Yeah, and it bothers me too, because they're supposed to have that.
Correct.
The jails or whoever's supposed to be providing birth certificate, social security card, and an ID upon release. They should have those documents in their file while they're actually incarcerated.
That is correct.
So it just really hurts my heart to know that so many individuals actually get released without that information. And we want them to start off with a job and housing and all of these things when they don't even have the basics. Documents they need to even start on that journey. Right. So where are they supposed to land? How are they supposed to establish themselves in the community if I did something wrong, right? I paid my price for it.
Right.
10, 20 years behind bars, okay? Now you release me out into the community to do what with what, right? But you expect us to be successful.
That's right.
Right? So I'm grateful that there's services like that. We at the Denney House also offer that support. So again, just the fact that, the people that we serve align, how we serve them is much different, and that's what makes us great partners. I provide transitional housing. You guys are the mental health and you guys are the mental health partners, but you also provide substance abuse support as well, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So substance abuse treatment is one of the number one contributing factors to individuals being incarcerated in the first place. 75%, this is a national statistic, 75% of all persons who are incarcerated have a SUD diagnosis. Yet in most correctional agencies, only about 3% actually have an opportunity to engage in treatment during their time of incarceration. So if the root cause of a person going to prison was because I have a substance use disorder, I go to prison, do my 10 or 12 years, and never get in that. The root issue of being in prison is never addressed in the first place. Why society expects for individuals to come home and do something different than what they were doing before they went in the first place is beyond me, because the root cause of their criminal behavior has never been addressed. So therefore, one of our core strengths is providing substance use disorder treatment services. We started with outpatient, then we did inpatient coming to our location. Now we have a residential component. Clients are able to be in a residential setting for up to a year at no cost to the client and receive the treatment that they need.
That is phenomenal. So if you have, some issues out here, you're in Prince George's County, you're trying to get service, you can't find anyone to help you, you don't have the documents, it's just been a struggle, and you really are trying to move forward in your life, Metalworks is a great place to start. You got the information here. I'm happy to have you on the podcast. I really do believe you guys are making great waves. And you as an individual, Dr. Garrett, you are truly a social change maker yourself. Because I know you are the sole reason that Metalworks has this reentry component in their lineup, right? So tell me why it's so important to you that we serve returning citizens.
Well, that's a great question. So I myself am also a returning citizen. I had the joy of spending 20 years of my life in on a missionary journey. That's how I refer to it. In the Georgia Department of Corrections. Though I was fortunate enough, 15 of those 20 years I was able to go to school. My family stood behind me through the process, and when I made the decision that I wanted to use my time in education, they were there to support me. And so I was able to identify a bachelor's degree program that I started in 2000 and was able to complete a bachelor's in theology in 2003, a master's in ministry in 2009, and a doctorate in ministry in 2012, because I had the desire when I was released to come home and hope to be able to do some of the things that I had an opportunity to do since I've been home, which is to provide services and opportunities, resources for returning citizens who are being released from incarceration, who may not have family to support them through that process. My mom had a copy of my birth certificate. My wife had a copy of my birth certificate. My mom had a copy of my ID. My wife, you know what I mean? So we had those things, to get started. I can't tell you the number of people that are released that when they get off the bus, there's no one there. Yeah. And so it is incumbent upon us to be that family support system that they need.
Well, I'm glad you brought up your family. Let's talk a little bit about your upbringing. Mm-hmm. Like what just tell me what the experience was in your household as a young man growing up.
Absolutely amazing. I was brought up in a Christ-centered family. I mean, that's my immediate family as well as extended family. So grandparents on my father's side were Methodist. Grandparents on my mother's side were Baptist. It didn't matter where the kids were on the weekend. What we're going to do on Sunday? Mm-hmm. We're going to church, maybe 2 or 3 times. Right. So with that said, and then later when I was about 12, 13 years old, my father actually was called into the ministry, and he became a United Methodist pastor. So I've been in a Christ-centered household environment my entire life. Great role models. My parents, great role models. At 17 years old, when I went off to college, I went to North Carolina A&T State University to major in electrical engineering. I was 17. I told you we grew up in a Christian environment. Yeah. So a lot of the partying and hanging out and things of that nature that the other kids were allowed to do, he did not play the radio. So you know what that means? Not play the radio.
So when you got to college, it was on and popping, huh?
My major was electrical engineering, right? Uh-huh. And it took me about 3 months to transition my major from electrical engineering to a triple major.
Okay, so share more.
A triple major?
Yeah,
binge drinking, chasing girls, and partying. And guess what, Khalilah? What? I made straight A's. It took about 3 years for the school to say, you might need to take a break.
My goodness.
You're not ready. So due to my lack of academic performance, I set out for a summer and then was transferred. I transferred to a school, Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, which is where I met my wife, Sherry. Yeah. And so, my time in prison was it was completely, it was my choice. I chose to not listen to the wisdom and the insight, the great foundation that was set for me. I chose to go my own way. I was smarter than everybody else. I was 17 and knew everything, right? I thought I did. But I come to realize now that the most valuable thing in life is the old, gray-headed, bald-headed people that are in your circle. If they're telling me something, even if I don't agree, I have learned to listen anyway.
That's right. Well, so I think you alluded to a little bit as to how you got into your sabbatical 20 years. Sounds like binge drinking and all that played a part in it. You want to share just a little bit about what happened to get you where you end up incarcerated?
So when I was in school, of course, on the weekends, to go to the party. It was the normal thing. We're gonna get something to drink, we're gonna get some beers, and everybody get our frame of mind ready to go and party. I actually thought that a part of the process of having a good time required that you have some alcohol or some drugs. And so I think about my sophomore year in college, we met some the cool guys from Charleston, South Carolina, that introduced me to cocaine, which is that's where that started with me. But we never had enough. I didn't have enough money for it to become a problem, because it was rarely, homecoming, get a little extra birthday money, Christmas time, something like that. That was the only time we were ever really able to indulge in that, because it was so expensive. But after I got married, the first summer that we were home, this would be 1989. My wife and I went to work for American Express in Greensboro, North Carolina, and began to make a $2 or $3. And so my drug use went from Friday to Friday and Saturday to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to Thursday, Friday. You get my repetition too. We get to a point that, I mean, it was a 7 days a week, nonstop, out of control situation. It took me from about 10 years to go from a functioning social drinker to a full-blown alcoholic drug addict. Okay. Lost total control of my life, total control of my family, homeless. You wouldn't imagine. I mean, I was a hot mess, right? Mm. And so in about 98, which I would say was really about the lowest point of my situation, I can remember praying for help because I really, several times that I wanted to transition and get myself back on the right track. Yeah. Just wasn't able to pull it off. But I'm driving down the street one evening, and my prayers were answered in the form of a legion of angels. Mm. A legion of angels descended upon my car. How I know they were angels? Uh-huh. They all had matching blue lights on the top of their car, and they all had on matching uniforms with a bright shiny star, and I knew they were there for me. Right. And so that began my process. Gotcha. But for me, that was God literally answering He saved me from myself.
I really do believe so. Yeah, I think because just listening to your life story, how you grew up, right? And I definitely understand how you can go from a sheltered environment to a college where it's wide open, right? And you tasting a little bit of the fun and acting, enjoying that, but then your life takes a turn. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing how God will just stop us in our tracks. Right. And say, hey, because you're one of his chosen, and you needed that experience to be where you are here today. Your testimony is one that has always just made my heart melt, because when I say the work that you do today, the level that you do the work that you do today, I don't think you'd be there without the experiences that you've had.
Having to understand, when I went into the system, I thought people in prison were in class. They were getting, substance abuse treatment. They were getting help. They were getting prepared to come back to society better than what they went in. Totally not so. Folks are just sitting around, their minds, their bodies deteriorating away. Yeah. And really, if society really knew what went on inside or the lack of what goes on inside of prisons, we wouldn't have such a high expectation for people when they are released to the community, because they really haven't had access to the tools to get themselves together to be a productive asset to society when they're released.
Yeah. So, but the kind of person you are, you went on a mission to change that, didn't you?
Like I said, my whole life, my parents, we were taught education. That if you want to have a good life, get an education. Right. They let us dabble around with playing football. Every little boy is going to be a football player or a basketball player or whatever like that. But playing sports for us in school, we had to keep B averages, not C averages, in order to play sports. You with me? Mm-hmm. But my point in saying that is, I had always been taught my whole life that education that's a guaranteed ticket. You don't have to be 6'9". You don't have to be able to dunk a basketball. You don't have to. Right. Anybody can do this, right? So when I found myself in that situation, I began looking for a way, is it possible to go to college? And so that's what I dedicated myself to doing while I was, during those 15 of my 20 years, I was in school. And my dorm wasn't as nice. The food wasn't as good. We had no women. So I had plenty of time to study and do my work. Yeah, I was able to stay focused.
Well, I know that the environment you grew up in is the reason why you are who you are, and the fact that you've seen individuals, behind bars, wasting away, not really doing anything, and your desire to learn, that turned into you helping others, right? While you were there.
So like I said, while I was in the county jail for 18 months before I went to the state prison thing, and I happened to read an article about it was called the Advance Unit, which is the first faith-based unit in the country. Is in a prison in Texas. While when George Bush was Governor George Bush, this was a program that was started in Texas while he was governor. So when he became president, it was actually so impactful in the Texas system, he wanted to make it into a national program. And many don't know necessarily, but the whole idea behind the faith-based and community initiatives that President George Bush created, it actually came from this concept.
Yeah.
So he wanted to take this Christ-centered reentry dorm program and put it in the federal, throughout the United States. Well, you can't do that because you can't. It's illegal to proselytize any particular religious belief system.
Right.
So they kind of changed the program enough to where not only could Christians enroll in the program, but anyone, regardless of your religious belief system, is the way that we did in Georgia. So let me back up. So the guys that were in the county jail with me, when we read this article, their mindset was, man, I wish we were in prison in Texas. That don't make sense. We can't do that. That's something that we can't do, right? So my mindset became, how do we bring the program to Georgia, right?
Okay.
So when I got to the prison, my first prison, and I learned that we were in the Georgia Department of Corrections at that time was in a stage that they call, there's a pendulum swing in corrections. It goes from...
Hold on. Not for me.
Go ahead.
But for our listeners.
Okay.
What you mean by
pendulum swing? Pendulum, like I was about to say, like from the system, incarceration goes from warehousing, which is no programming whatsoever,
okay, to
a lot of programs, right?
Oh, okay.
And it takes about 10 to 15 years for a system to go from no programs to programs at every facility that you could imagine within a state system, right?
Gotcha.
I went in at the place when Georgia had no programs. We literally had our activity. You're not going to believe this. We got up every morning, cleaned up our area, went to eat breakfast, and then we went on what was called a wellness walk. A wellness walk consisted of everybody in the whole prison going out to the recreation yard and walking around a track for 4 or 5 hours a day.
Wow. Guess
why we did that? So that the administration of the prison could go and inspect the housing units without being bothered by us.
Wow.
So I'm thinking to myself, how in the world can we get prepared to be successful when we go home by coming out here walking around in a circle?
Right.
It just didn't make no sense. So I thought about the unit that I read about, and we began, I started talking to everybody, the counselors, the officers, the sergeants, writing letters to the governor, congressmen, anybody that would, if I had your address, you were going to get a letter. Because I wanted people to know that we didn't have no programming in here, and they should give us a shot. So finally, it took about 3 years, but they finally gave us an opportunity to start what was called a faith and character-based reentry dorm program.
Okay.
That in 2004, 4 dorms were opened in the Georgia system. In 2011, there were at that point 16 prisons that had a reentry unit. And what that means is, if you have a 1,000 bed prison, 10 100-man dorms, that one of those units is designated a reentry unit, and everybody that's on that prison compound, when you are within 12 to 15 months of going home, you're moved into this dorm where you could begin reentry programming, resume writing, motivational interviewing, parenting, money management, on and on, so that you can actually be equipped to come home and be successful. So then in 2011, we were allowed to open the first faith and character-based prison. And I won't say open because we re-established it. We took an existing prison and transformed it, I guess you would say, into a 2-year reentry program. Okay. And the best way for me to describe it is Walker Faith and Character-Based Prison is a community college inside of a fence. And there's no better way. If you've ever been to college and you've registered for classes, you have core classes that you have to take, you have electives that you can choose from, exactly the same. It's community college inside of a fence.
Wow.
And so that's what I kind of dedicated my prison experience to, being a part of implementing reentry programming while we were in that environment, and devoting my attention to my own personal education process, so that I could hopefully get to do something impactful when I was released.
Well, you're there. You're doing it now, and I tell you, the more and more I hear about your story, the more and more I'm just convinced that God has a plan for your life. You're living it out right now, and you're doing an excellent job stewarding the gift that He's given you. So I know you and I both have gone through some trainings together. You have introduced me to both of those trainings. I am today a certified life coach because of the programs that you introduced me to. You are the same. Do you want to talk about the two programs we've gone through? So
with Life Empowerment Enterprises, we have a program. We've had a few different terms, and I'm going to tell you why. The life mentoring, for instance, is really that's what we're doing. We're mentoring. But the concept of mentoring for returning citizens that are coming home, they have the idea, the term mentor is associated with an older, wiser person telling a younger person what to do. So returning citizens do not want a mentor when they come home.
Right.
Although that's not quite an accurate definition of what a mentor is, that's just the concept that they have.
Right.
So that term was actually softened a little bit and changed to life coach. Another great way to look at the mentoring concept. What I prefer personally is we would like to be called reentry navigators, and I'm gonna tell you why. So, have you ever used a navigation system in the car before?
Yeah.
When you sit down in the car, does it automatically tell you where to go?
No.
What do you have to do?
I gotta program it. I gotta put my address in, tell it where I'm going with my destination.
The destination. So I'm a reentry navigator.
Okay.
Miss Denney, once you tell me the destination where you want to go with the rest of your life, my role is to connect you with the tools, resources, and supports to get you from here to there. I'm not here to tell you where to go. I'm only here to assist you through that process of achieving your own personal goals for your life. Would you like to have a reentry navigator?
Sure, of course I would.
So we're kind of batting 1,000, if you would, with that concept, because folks they have the understanding that they're in the driver's seat for their life.
I'm about to say, it sounds like they're more in control.
Correct.
Right? And people don't want to give up control.
Correct.
So when you say, like you said, the difference between a mentor and an actual reentry navigator, definitely I'm going to go with the reentry navigator. You're not going to get as much pushback.
Right.
If anything, you actually get more buy-in.
Right.
Because now you have somebody to help you reach your goals. You've decided, you've talked through it with them. We have conversations about where it is you're trying to go, what the steps it's going to take to get there. You're the one coming up with these concepts. Now, I'm just helping stir you in the right direction. Right? I'm not doing the work for you. You're doing the work for yourself, and I'm here to answer questions, to guide you along the process, and to help you, lessen those bumps along the way.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I love the work that I'm doing. Thank you for introducing that to me.
And this is one of, for the community at large, like we're looking right now, I hate to transition to kind of another segment, but we're looking at the crime that is taking place in our communities. I can remember when I moved to Prince George's County 5 years ago, some of the things that we're seeing on the news now didn't exist. Not in Prince George's County.
Not at this large scale.
Not at this scale, right. And so with that said, when I see the press conferences, right, and the police chief is out there, the county executive is out there, the community is out there, and they're upset. They're pointing their fingers at the police to fix it. They want the county executive to fix it. They're not the answer. Government has never been the answer to our problems. They haven't been able to solve it in all this time, so why do we keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result? The true initiative that we have to take on our behalf as a community, we have to get involved in our community.
Yeah.
If me and my wife, although our two sons they're grown, they're married, they're off and doing their thing,
mm-hmm.
but we know that Shirley lives across the street,
mm-hmm.
and we know that Shirley is a single mother,
right.
and we know that she has a 12 and a 14-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
It is incumbent upon the men in our community to knock on those doors and to offer to mentor those young men.
Yeah.
How do we expect for young men, for boys to become men of character, men of integrity, without a quality role model to look up to mirror that conduct? It's not going to happen. It's clear it's not happening.
It's not.
So therefore, and so the answer to what we're seeing taking place in society with crime and our young people, a lot of it has to do with the citizens of the community not embracing the concept that we were all raised with. It takes a village to raise a family.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that leans into one of the other programs that we work together on, our mentor and tutoring program. And I adopted the title and the name of it, which is No Entry Navigators,
that's right.
From you and one of our good friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, the concept is lost on a lot of folk.
Mm-hmm.
But the No Entry Navigator is pretty much the same thing as a Re-Entry Navigator.
Right.
But we want to make sure that our young people don't enter the system.
Correct.
We want to make sure that they have all the access to opportunity,
mm-hmm.
that they need, to, all the tools that they need to discover their gifts and talents, and the platforms to put those gifts and talents to use.
Mm-hmm.
And the No Entry Navigators are the ones that need to step up. Those men who need to step up and knock on doors. And there's some women who are needed too, because we've got some young girls who are coming out and they're just as, I would say, violent, just as, lost as young men.
A little known fact.
Mm-hmm.
The fastest growing segment of the prison population in the United States of America is women.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We need as many women to mentor young girls and be that role model for them to look up to and learn what it is to be a woman of virtue, a woman of character in this society that, the things that we're able to just click on the TV and see now it was unthinkable when we were 12 and 15 years old. You couldn't access that kind of content.
I understand, and they access it so quickly and it's so easily available at their fingertips. But my concern also is, just like that young boy who doesn't have dad at home,
right.
Mom's not at home either because she's working. She's
3
out
jobs.
trying to take care of everybody.
Right.
There are some moms who are doing an excellent job at being that single mom, right? And there are some that are struggling because they don't have the support of the community. Right. They don't have family. They don't have, individuals pouring into their kids. And so they're out here, just seeking a connection, seeking some place where they can be themselves and be cheerleaded.
Right.
And unfortunately, some of the places that they're finding, it's not the best environment. So we want to provide those environments for the young folk to come, to feel at home, to feel embraced and loved.
Right.
And they're being poured into positively. They are, receiving the opportunity to express themselves and share what it is that they like and what they want to do. So I'm just grateful that we're providing that opportunity. It is so vital that we understand that the mistakes that we make in our past don't have to be where we stay. Right? They can catapult us to a great future because, God has provided us with all the opportunities in the world to just really learn from our mistakes and take those mistakes and turn them into triumph, right? That's really the story I hear today. I hear a testimony of triumph. I hear a testimony of love where your family has always been there for you. It's unfortunate that a lot of individuals don't have that support.
And I just want to add that when we talk about family support, that when a loved one goes off to prison, especially a husband, especially a father, and I'm gonna say a mother as well. Every family, every extended family is not necessarily equipped to embrace the needs of the parent of those children that are in the community and support in a way financially. Every family does not have that luxury. That's the truth of it. So therefore, many times decisions have to be made that our loved one that's in prison. I mean, we love you and we care about you and all, but the limited resources that we do have need to be directed towards these children. You with me? So I wanted to say something because we talked about family growing up and all that, and I skipped the part.
Okay.
Because really, my whole transition thing it's really not me. I haven't done anything amazing at all. Really, the person who has done the amazing work is my wife, Sherry. Because while I was away in prison, she's raising 2 boys, working 2 and 3 jobs, buying houses, and going on, making sure that they have what they need to progress in life. High school graduates, college graduates. Oldest son plays pro ball in Europe. Youngest son, Dwayne, he's a manager for Enterprise car rental agency in Phoenix, Arizona. They're both doing wonderful, buying homes, married. We have 1 grandchild. And that couldn't have taken place without a strong, solid woman of character. And so one of the reasons I go so hard today is because I know that I was promised while I was on my missionary journey that to the degree that I would serve the young men and be a role model to the ones that I could engage with, that to that degree, I was promised that God would have male role models for our sons to look up to. And he has blown our minds. So
that is amazing. That is amazing. And shout out to Sherry. She is a phenomenal woman, and she's definitely one of those ones that I said are just knocking it out the park as it relates to doing what they need to do and getting it done and doing it with excellence. Right. So I'll say we haven't yet really talked about your nonprofit, right? So one of the things that I love is that all the work that you did before, the voluntary work that you've done before, we have been able to structure, a nonprofit for you here at Denney's Consulting to help you now turn that work into an opportunity for others to share and help you grow that work, right? So let's talk about Reentry United.
So I would say there's been, and I'm going to give you the long version to make sure I got, the long version. So there's a great number of people who have been incarcerated that had, these dreams and ideas of doing something majorly impactful, when we get back in society. When I get out of prison, I'm going to have this national returning citizens organization, and we're gonna change laws. We're gonna impact the criminal justice system and just begin to tear these prisons down. You with me? So with that said, to come out here with that idea of having this national organization, I thought that you would have a great vision for impacting change in the reentry space. You would see some other people doing some great things, and you would share with them your vision, and they would say, you know what, that's a great idea. We're going to come on and join what you're doing, and you go across the country and kind of share that same idea. But what I found out was I wasn't the only person who wanted to have a national returning citizens organization. There are a lot of organizations that have a national name, yet they only have a local footprint. And it took me a little while to understand why. I'm not the only person who is passionate about what it is that I'm doing. Anyone that has gone through the process, and you know the process very well because you facilitate it for so many other organizations or people who would like to have an organization. They have an idea, but it's not incorporated yet. They don't have 501c3 yet. They don't have a board yet. All of that. So I learned through that process that there are many people who are passionate about what they're doing, and everybody that you would want on your team, you're not trying to find people that sitting around the house looking at TV all day. That's not somebody that you want on your team. You're looking for somebody that's already out here in the streets doing the work.
Right.
So therefore, they're already passionate about what they're doing. But when we ask the person to join our organization, we're asking them to take their banner and what they're passionate about and set it aside to align with our vision. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So I was introduced to a concept called coalition. Coalition building is not new. It's been around for decades. It is just new. It's a new concept being used in the reentry space, which basically means rather than having individuals and organizations, agencies across the country join one organization, we come together as a collaborative coalition to work on these issues that we're also passionate about, but it allows each organization to maintain their independent autonomy, keep doing exactly what they've been doing in their region, which is the very reason we want to partner with them anyway.
Right.
But when it makes sense for us to collaborate and join forces for things like the National Returning Citizens Conference, for instance, it gives us a great foundation to pull from when we're spearheading some of these national events like that. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a good example. In Washington, D.C., we have legislation called the IRA Act, the IRAA, the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act. This allows for anyone who was a 17-year-old, a juvenile, that was sentenced to a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The IRA Act allows them to have opportunity for parole eligibility after they've served 20 years in prison. Maryland also has a similar legislation called the JRA, the Juvenile Restoration Act. Mm-hmm. Same concept. There are many states and regions across the country that still do not have any remedy for a juvenile who has been sentenced to natural life to ever have a possibility of parole. One of the things that we're doing with Reentry United is that our advocacy and policy committee is able to pull together the legislation that we have in DC, the legislation that we have from Maryland, and connect with, say, policy advocates in Georgia. We can give them the whole blueprint of how to implement legislation around juvenile justice reform in their state, so that when they approach a state representative with an idea to have a bill like this championed on the House of Representatives, the legislature doesn't have to, it's not such a heavy lift, you with me? They don't have to write a bill from scratch. They don't have to do all of the research. It's already done. So there has never been a platform for returning citizens to collaborate on a national scale ever. It's never happened. So that's the whole idea behind Reentry United, is to provide a platform for returning citizens to collaborate and influence policy change on the national level.
Awesome. That sounds like some great work. Sounds like you need a great team. You need an army to do it. But I think you're going to get there. I know you're going to get there, actually, because of the model, because of the way you work, because of how easy it is, I believe, for you to connect with individuals who are doing the work that needs to be done, and bring them into the fold, bring them into the family, provide a place for them where they can shine and be that change maker as well within this collaborative effort that you have. I'm happy and grateful to be a part of it. I'm just over the moon as to how many people we're going to support, how the Reentry United is going to stretch across the United States and beyond. And I already see that happening. So I'm just grateful that Denney's Consulting was able to help you, formate that and put it together. So now, not only are you doing the work in the for-profit business, side of things, working for someone pretty much who have designed a job for you and for your skill set, and you killing it, and now doing the work that you're doing for yourself with the Reentry United. It's just a phenomenal thing. So, is there anything else that you want to share as it relates to Reentry United? I know there's a couple other things in the works.
So absolutely. So one of the things I know when I was making my comments a little bit earlier about Reentry United, I alluded to one of the subcommittees being policy and advocacy, but I don't want to leave it that's all that Reentry United is about. We actually have five subcommittees that govern what we do on a national scale. Again, advocacy and policy committee, and I gave you an example earlier of why that's very important. Transitional and long-term housing. Events and planning. We also have a subcommittee of programs and evidence-based practices, the subcommittee of transitional housing and long-term housing, and the subcommittee of fundraising and grants. Now, one of the main problems or challenges with people who have the passion to do work here in the reentry space, there are organizations that have the passion to do the work, they have the people to do the work, they have the program expertise to do the work, but they cannot figure out how do we get the resources to do the work. Right. And one of the things that we do is capacity building training to help organizations understand that in order to become grant worthy of $1 million federal grant, it requires a whole lot of back of the house work and things that need to be put in place before an organization would even be grant worthy. It's not that I've spent about 5 years explaining to organizations that it's not because the grant committee, it's not that they don't like you, it's not that they have a buddy system, it's not that they only want to give money to big organizations. No, they want to give money to organizations that have the financial history of being able to manage that money and to create the outcomes that are associated, that are supposed to be produced from $1 million grant resource. Right. They don't take a chance on stuff like that. So with that said, it is very critical that we come together to hone our skills as organizations and understand the dynamics behind being prepared to be awarded significant grant funds.
Right. So I now want to piggyback on that because that's one of this is one of our tips for the day for our nonprofits who are starting up. That is very true. That it's important that you have the data that you need as well as the organizational framework, right? So if you're a new nonprofit starting out and say you don't have a history that will afford you to say, okay, well, I can manage this. But if you're organized and you have the programs in place and you've got the data to support it and you're able to share your story in a way where it resonates with those grant reviewers, you still have a chance. So it is very important that you are intentional with your framework, how you are organized as an organization, how your policies and procedures, your SOPs, that you are thinking through your programmatic services, and that you're able to collect the data that your work is impactful And if you can share that story in a way that people can see the transformation happening before you can show the evidence of it, you still can be funded. You can win. And I'm going to also share that we can't stop at grants, right? It is very important that nonprofits, when you start up, that you don't think just about grants, because we can't eat off grants alone. God said we can't eat off bread alone, right? We have to diversify our funding sources. Grants are a great way to get your
start.
To get started. And I would even go further to say building up your individual donor base is a great way to get started. It's a way for you to get funding that can help you start your programmings and, show the impact initially before you go after those big grants. Fundraising is really another big way to do that, through events. Having, your friends gather and do sponsorship events and, so things like that. But we'll talk more about that on a later podcast. Contracts, and more contracts. And tell who taught you that?
So a lady I met her about 5 years ago. I think she's with Denney House Consulting. Told me that grants are not the end all be all. That grants are just the foundation to get you started. But what you should really be positioning yourself for is to be awarded contracts. That's right. It's very, very, very important. And we use one of the things we found very successful with the reentry
United
Coalition is a model called the collective impact model. It is when you can bring together organizations that have an expertise in diverse service delivery models, bring together a organization that is an expert in transitional housing, an organization that is an expert in workforce development, an expert in transportation, an expert in reentry mentoring. When you bring those organizations together, still that's a good start. Then we must identify what we call a backbone organization, which is an organization that already has a proven track record managing state and federal resource opportunities. Especially when you're a new organization, one of the best ways to get in the game is to partner in a manner like that and become a sub-grantee on a contract. It takes you to a whole nother level very quickly, because although my organization may not have been able to be awarded $1 million, to be a sub-grantee and receive $250,000, I would rather have $250,000 than zero to get started. And then it gives you the opportunity. Once I've proven that I can manage $100,000, I can manage $250,000, I can manage $500,000, and the rest will take care of itself.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So I'm glad you brought that up. It is important to me to share with those who are out there. If you are a business owner and you are trying to figure out whether or not you want to start a nonprofit or you want to support another nonprofit, the Denney House is my nonprofit. I've been doing it for over a decade. I use that experience to help others start and grow their own nonprofits. So Denney's Consulting is the service provider, and we are the sponsors of this podcast. So if you're looking to start up your nonprofit, if you're looking for some help and guidance in a community of individuals who have those resources, who have the expertise, who have the experience, the lived experience, who have the receipts, as my mentor David Shan says, those who have the receipts that can help you take your nonprofit to the next level, check us out at DenneysConsulting.com. So, we have an event coming up, right? An amazing event that Reentry United is kind of spearheading the process and the project. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So as I said a little earlier, many returning citizens while we're doing time want to get out here and do something, have a big splash, if you would. So with that said, I've had the desire to have a national footprint relating to and founded on returning citizens, a returning citizen-led initiative. So during the pandemic, as we were all learning how to engage virtually, going to virtual conferences, virtual summits, the idea came in 2021 to produce the first National Returning Citizens Virtual Conference. The reason we went virtual is because when I was thinking about it in years prior, I never could wrap my mind around where am I going to get the money to have an in-person national conference with returning citizens who many of us, don't have the financial means to travel across the country to go to one central location for a conference. But hey, I said virtually. Yeah. We can log into that at no cost. So anyway, we were able to partner in 2021 with the 400 Years of African American Historical Commission. Met a wonderful mentor advisor by the name Mr. Carlisle Holder that promised me, he said, if you can put a team together that can pull off a virtual conference with excellence, that we're willing as the 400-year commission to put our name behind, because it's a federal commission. He said we're not going to put our name on no mess. It has to be really professional and done with excellence. He said if you all will plan it, we'll pay for it. And so me, I said deal. Right. So we were able to actually partner with another mentor advisor, LaShawn Quander Mosley and QED, to produce the first National Returning Citizens Conference in 2021. 2021 it was virtual. 2022 we were virtual. 2023 was the first hybrid in-person component hosted by the Potter's House in Texas. This year we're going to be at the Renaissance Hotel in Arlington. This is our first attempt at a 5-day extravaganza.
It's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be awesome. So Wednesday, April the 3rd, there will be an HBCU roundtable, which will be the HBCU college presidents who have a secondary education degree program, a bachelor's degree program, operating in a prison in their region. There will also be a speaker's reception. On Thursday, April the 4th, we will have a golf tournament at the Woodmore Country Club. Thursday, April the 4th, that evening, we have a comedy show that will also be at the Renaissance. Pierre, and I'll mess up the names and not let me try to say them all. But please, I'm going to give you the information to go and check it out for your tickets, right? So Thursday evening, the comedy show. Friday and Saturday will be 2 full days of conference at the Renaissance in Arlington. Saturday evening, we have an awards gala with our special guest, none other than Life Jennings is going to be with us. We're also going to have Mama Lou Stewart, another returning citizen from the District of Columbia, is going to be opening up the show. We really want you all to please come out and support it. And then to close it all out, on Sunday, April the 7th, there will be a march and prayer rally in Washington, on the Washington Mall. And some may ask, what is so significant? Why so much going into this year's conference? This year marks the 50-year anniversary of the legislation being passed, which created the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. And we understand, for those that are in the know, we understand that the war on drugs actually led to the huge increase in mass incarceration, not only in this country, but specifically African American males. Right. So our conference theme this year is 50 Forward. What do we now do over the next 50 years, locally, regionally, and nationally, to reduce mass incarceration by reducing recidivism? And as you can tell, I'm super excited.
Yes, I'm super excited. I've attended a couple of the ones in the past, and they have always been done with excellence. And I'm sure this year is not going to be any different. So I'm excited as well. So at this point, I'm saying thank you. Thank you so much for joining the Social Changemakers Podcast. Absolutely. Thank you for being a social change maker. I want to know if there was anything you had to say to the audience that you wanted to leave them with, a word of wisdom, to help them continue doing that great work they're doing, some encouraging words for our people let me know. Do you have anything you want to share?
The thing that I would like to share is to be the change that you want to see. The things that we want to see take place in our society, the change that we want to see take place in our school system, until we as the community, and I'm going to say especially the male African American men in our community, to the degree that we're willing to get involved in the lives of the young men that are in our communities, to that degree, that's when we're going to be able to see the change. All right, so if you would please register for the National Returning Citizens Conference at www.nrcc2024.org. See you there.
Awesome. Thank you for watching. This is the Social Changemakers Podcast signing out. Let us know how you felt about this content. If you'd like to see more content like this, if there's anything you want to share with us, please put it in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
On April the 27th, there will be a job and resource fair at First Baptist Church of Glenarden. We're also going to have what is called a returning citizen simulation and a reentry navigator recruitment. For those of you that are willing to be the change that you want to see, please look forward to upcoming details, and we would like to see you a part of that event as well.